In this video, we're going to be talking a little bit about pan positioning and also talk about stereo width. I'm not going to go over what happens when you take the pan position and put it hard left or hard right. We all know what's going to happen there. But I will note that when you are working inside of your digital audio workstation, that this pan position and this fader is really the last line of defense before you go to the master. So we're talking about like the signal flow of things. Recognize that you could make a panning change. Let's go here. You could make a panning change with a tool effect, for example, or a utility, and we could push this to the left, but then we could still go in and compensate and push it back to the right. And this is your final kind of pan destination unless you've grouped tracks. So in terms of working with these pan pots, that's all I'm going to talk about for now. When you're actually making your track, you can feel free to go in and kind of do a little mini mix and start panning things around. But chances are when I'm making my track, I'm not even going to use these pan positions until I get to the mixing stage. Because if I want to control pan, I can even go in and I can control pan from within the clip stage, or I can again put some kind of tool device on and alter pan here. So just like with volume and it going through those different stages, the same rules apply when you're working with pan. You can start with the clip, and then from the clip you'll go to the processing, the effects, and then from the effects and processing you go to your final fader and pan pot position. Instead, I want to talk more about balances, and for this video, to get the most out of it, you're going to want to be working with or listening through headphones, or make sure you have a speaker setup that is stereo. The reason headphones will work best in this case is because we have a binaural recording. So it's basically like they take a human head and put like microphones inside of it. It's really a complicated process, and so it has this effect as though it's kind of swirling around your head, and it works better, or it really only works in headphones. But for the stereo stuff, it'll still make a difference. You'll still hear the changes assuming you have a stereo speaker setup. So let's take a listen to this now, just unaltered, and you'll hear what I mean with the binaural recording. So there are some crazier examples of this online. If you search binaural recording, you can get some really cool things to listen to. But this is going to do the job nicely for what I want to talk about here in the video. So when you have a utility or a tool effect, a lot of times you see a width control. Now, if you look closely, you'll see that this width control is based on a percentage. So it's not as though if I turn this all the way to the right, I'm suddenly adding more stereo information. That is not at all what's happening. What it's doing is it's analyzing this file and it's paying attention to the imbalances between the left and the right. Okay, the two channels here, since this was recorded in stereo. And from there, it's going to push it either further or it's going to compress it in. So if I take this, for example, and I turn it into mono, and then I bounce it, you'll see that the left and the right here, these are now the same in terms of amplitude. And if I look at the original, we can see that there are some differences here all the way throughout. And that's really what's kind of making this stereo as compared to being mono. If I go to a file that already begins in mono, or is in mono, recorded in mono like the poem, and I change the width and I try to push this wide, nothing's going to happen because there's no difference between the left and the right.
His griefs may return. Not a hope may remain of the few that have brightened his pathway.
Right, it's exactly the same no matter where I change that width positioning to. Now, why is this important and why does it matter? I've touched on this a couple of times already, and I've just kind of told you this, but with like pop and like professional EDM and that sort of thing, it can sound weird to take synthesizers and like push them really crazy left and right. You very rarely hear that. Sometimes it happens, but it's not common. What usually happens is if you have a vocal and it's really cutting through the middle in mono, they'll actually take the files or they'll take those instruments, use something like a tool device, and kind of push push it further. So they'll push the sound into more stereo. So they get more going in the left and the right and leaving more room down the middle. And in this example, you'll actually hear it better probably with speakers than you will with headphones, but the point will be the same nonetheless. So if I have two of these, when I go to mono, you'll notice that it gets a bit quieter. So I need to compensate for that. And I'm just going to set this up, and then we'll listen to before and afters and compare it to the poem that's being played in the background. All right, so I have this comparison set up. So if we're listening to the poem, okay, and the poem is in mono, and our other audio file is also completely in mono, you can hear how listening to the poem can be kind of difficult. It's hard for your ear to focus in on that without getting distracted by this dentistry noise going on.
Those griefs may return, not a hope may remain, you that have frightened.
But if we switch that and we push the dentist stuff way out into stereo, in this case, I'm doing an extreme example, you'll be able to hear how suddenly you can really hear the poem, and you can also hear the dentistry stuff, and you can kind of choose in your brain, what do you want to focus on? So I'll just flip back and forth between the two of them so you can really listen and try to hear if you're able to comprehend what it is that I'm saying. So here we go.
Those griefs may return, not a hope may remain of the few that have frightened his background pain, but he ne'er will forget the short vision that through his enchantment allowed him while lingering with you. And still in that evening, when pleasure fills up to the highest sparkle, each heart and each cup, where'er my path lies.
And really, I could even take the one that's in stereo and turn it down a little bit more to make this even more of a fair comparison, because if you notice here on the left, we're actually maybe peaking out a little bit lower than what we're peaking out here with the file that's in stereo, or at least the version that's in stereo, I should say. So balances are a really critical thing. And also note that just because we go here and we've brought this down, the width to 0, this isn't like we're mixing in mono, because I can still take this and I can still pan this around.
Not a hope may remain of the few that have frightened.
So just be aware that that's different than doing something like going in here and actually turning this into mono, where pan will now have no difference. Okay, so those are different things. Just thought I'd bring that up in case somebody was confused or had a question about that. The other thing that we can take a look at here is how you can push this out like even wider and go kind of crazy with it. So what I've done here is I've taken the width controls, and I've panned one hard left, I've panned one hard right, and then I've actually taken the width and I've even pushed it out further. So let's take a listen to this. This is kind of a crazy effect that you can come up with. And let's hear that with the poem.
His griefs may return, not a hope may remain of the few that have frightened his background pain, but he ne'er will forget the short vision that through his enchantment allowed him while lingering with you. And still in that evening, when pleasure fills up.
So in case you ever want to go for like really crazy stereo effects, they're really easy to come up with. You don't need fancy or expensive tools. You just have to split up the signal. You just need to be aware of what it is you're doing and what you're pushing where and what you're panning where. And when you start to experiment and it really starts to sink home, you realize you don't need those really expensive tools to come up with the really cool effects. The other effect plugin we can look at is the Hofa meter again. And in this case, we're not going to be using the metering capabilities, but we're going to be messing around with the pan pots that you can see here towards the center. So just like the tool effect, if we want to take this and we want to make it a mono signal, we can hold down Shift and actually pull these up until we see the center icon, like so. And now it's a mono signal like we had before with the tool. And if we want to push this out and make it wider, we can actually go beyond the 100 marks and kind of push this even further stereo, just like when we were adding the width and changing the balance. Same exact concept. right? So subtle difference, but it's certainly there. But the reason I like using this is because this is a little bit more like what you see in a program like Pro Tools. If you have a stereo file, you actually control the pan like independently of each of those two channels that's come in. So if I want to take just the left channel, for example, and I want to turn that up, I could do that. And then I could also even push it in a different direction. So I could push it more towards the right. Or I could get a little crazy. Kind of go down here with it, then take the right one and maybe do something like that. And then if I hold the control key, I can actually like spin this. So that's kind of crazy. And then if I wanted, I could even like automate the volumes on these. In this program, I even have an LFO device. So if I was going beyond the scope of this course, I could use some kind of LFO to control that for me. So there's a lot you can do with the balances, and it can really free up space for other instruments if you know how to use them. All right, so that's the idea. Hope you have some fun with this one, because I certainly know I will.